Hey everyone, it is Wednesday, August 11th. My name is Dee Corchin, and we are here for day 3 of boot camp. So this is where the rubber starts hitting the road. We see who started falling out, right? And who's here. But I know a lot of people who aren't on this call are watching it on replay. I get these up the same night because sometimes somebody might have a conflict at this time, but they are looking at it and doing the things. What I'd love to know is, just maybe in the comments, rate yourself, not on the results, but on your efforts on a scale of 1 to 10. How do you think you're doing extending making your candidate list and extending your invites to your candidates? So 1, like, wow, not so good. 10, I'm killing it. Again, not measuring outcome, just what you're doing. Ooh, look at that. Some good numbers there. Very, very good. Well, so much. I wanted to share one quick story before I turn this over to Lori and Lisa, who are going to do a bang up job, just about the power of mindset and sponsoring. And a few of you I've shared this story individually with since convention, but I was invited to a special dinner for integrated presidentials and above at convention. And I was at the Georgia Aquarium. It was wonderful. There were so many people in that room I had never seen before. We had not had an in-person convention in 2 years, which meant so many people had come into this business and in a short amount of time had built incredible teams, meaning they sponsored a lot of coaches and we're at these higher levels. And so this guy sat down at the table with us, and he was in his early 40s, and he was there. His wife was with him. She's not coaching with him. It's just his thing. And he made integrated presidential in less than a year. And I'm like, you got to tell me about this. Like, how does that happen? And the first thing he said was, I didn't know it wasn't normal. He said, I just did everything my coach told me to do. So that was his mindset, was like, he didn't let all the fear and the junk get in the way or growing too fast. He just said that. But I said, well, how does it really happen? And he said, well, let me just tell you what our culture is in our organization. And he said that, just listen to this, how it flows with what we talk about, making new friends, commenting on other people's posts, etc. He was on Facebook, and some guy friend requested him, and he realized they were like in a hunting club together or something. So he accepted the friend request. The guy, who happens to be a coach, started liking and commenting on his post. He thought to himself, well, this is a nice guy. Started noticing his post. He saw the transformations. The guy I was talking to needed to lose weight, so he reached out to him. Guy described the program and said, I think he said, yes, all right, I'm in. And he said, listen, I can help you with this program. This program can help you lose weight. The biggest obstacle is going to be you, and your biggest challenge is going to be after the fact, and try to keep it off. He said, so right now, you actually need to consider becoming a coach and bringing some friends to do this program with you right now. And he said it so confidently that the new client said, okay. And he ordered his health coach kit and his program the same day. And then he went out to his friends and he says, I found this program. The guy who's helping me, the dude said, if I want to do it, if I want to be successful, I need some friends to do it with me. Who's in? A couple guys raised their hand. They did the 3-way call with the coach. Coach told them the same thing. If you're going to do this, you really need some people to do it with you. Most of them did. And so they just had this mindset that you need to become a coach for your own accountability. And he said almost everybody, if they don't become a coach, then they do the 7-day tips call. And if that doesn't do it, they do another one at 30 days. So just really wanted to reiterate for you guys, the power of mindset. That was a whole culture that his coach had gone presidential in a year's time. So, and really, he said, as I talked to people about it, I said, this is a great way you can get healthy, stay healthy, and make $1,000 or $2,000 a month. So pretty amazing. So you guys are killing it with what you've been doing. I am excited tonight for Lori and Lisa to take over. They're going to talk about the importance of follow-up, handling objections, next steps. And I'm just going to turn off my mic and let you guys take it.
All right. Thank you, Dee. I'm so excited to be here tonight, and I appreciate the opportunity to work with Lori, especially, and to share what we have with everyone tonight. And it's, the beauty, the magic is in the follow-up, you guys, right? So here we are. We've talked about why it's best to coach. Dee just told a compelling story how to organize, how to make our list, how to approach and invite. And now we're going to talk about following up. Before we do that though, I'm just curious, how many, if you can think back to those conversations you had with your coach, and if you can remember, how many conversations did you have? How many times did your coach ask you to coach, or over what period of time did your coach ask you to coach before you finally said yes? If you could just drop in the chat. If you think about that, right? How many times did you say no? I happen to know there's somebody on this call tonight. It took like 4 years. You're legendary, Julie. And I think D, for me, I was pretty fast, but it still took me some time, right? And I think that's the important thing, right? It takes a little bit of time. People need to consider it, but we want to sort of maximize that time within which they're considering it. And so that's really what we're going to be talking about here. Yeah, 3 months. Oh, was never asked. About a month and a half. Beth, yeah, 6 or 7 times. Maybe more. I don't know. It's so funny. So the point is, it does take some time, right? So for myself, Dee and I met up in the spring of 2018. And we talked about it. I was excited. I was curious. She sent me some more information. We had a couple more conversations, and it took me a couple of months. And then I went to my first convention 3 weeks later. And honestly, at that first convention, I was kind of turned on to the power of sponsoring and started reaching out to people. And I think for myself, you guys, I reached out to people that didn't need a weight loss story or have a weight loss story, so to speak. I mean, everybody needs better health, right? But I started reaching out to people in my world who I thought would want to make an additional income, right? Kind of like the information that we had on one of the nights of boot camp, where it was, think of all the people in your world. And my favorite thing, my coaches hear this from me all the time. Everyone needs Optavia. They just don't know it yet. Everyone needs Optavia. So don't ever think twice about asking anyone, because there is something in this program for everyone. And we hear it's a personal development program, with a weight loss component. And that's true. And I think about what Dan Valentine said at convention. If you heard his section at convention, he talked about mindset, and we talk a lot about mindset because that's what's going to get in your way. Your mindset is going to be what gets in your way. And he said, mindset is a set of beliefs that drives consistent action. And he said, if you don't believe, you will overcomplicate, you will overthink yourself out of success. And he said, action is proof of the decision. And the best action you can take in your business is follow up. Follow up. There's nothing like it. And I think you may have heard, we lose some very high percentage, 80 or 90% of anything we've heard within 72 hours. So if you think about sponsoring conversations you've talked to people about coaching, you've had a great coach explore, and someone seems really excited, and then you follow up maybe several days later, and suddenly they say, you know what, I want to work on myself, or, oh, I don't think that I'm ready, right? It's because they've gotten in their heads. So we want to remind them what they were excited about. So we're going to talk more about that. And tonight we're going to talk about, Lori's going to cover how to overcome barriers. And then Lori and I together will cover some action steps for you. So feel free to kind of blow up the chat with any questions that you have or observations, and we'll cover those as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Lori now.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. Dee, thanks so much for including us. We really had a great brainstorm session. And one of the things that I'm a school teacher, so when I'm teaching something, it becomes obvious to myself what I don't know and what I don't do. And there were a couple of moments as Lisa and I were talking about things, and I'm like, oh, wow, that's so good. Do you do that? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, well, that's good. And so I've been coaching for 5 years, so I haven't arrived. And that's what I love about what we're doing is as Optavia coaches, it's about personal growth. If we show up better and we lay ourselves down and just get over ourselves, a lot of times those things, our business starts naturally rolling. And, at the levels that we're building to, it's about personal growth. So we listen to clients better. But tonight I want to talk about some barriers in the follow-up. So I want you to blow up the chat for me in just a second. I want you to, so follow up is after you've had this initial touch base and maybe there's been a wait or a no or an I don't know. I want you to tell me the barriers, what keeps you from following up. So in the chat, tell me what keeps you from following up. What are the things? What are the obstacles there? Here's one. I don't want to be a pest. I feel like I'm a nag. Time, lack of time, prejudgment. Yeah, fear of rejection, fear of being annoying. Yes. Fear of rejection. I judge. Yes. Yes. And so tonight we're going to talk about how to overcome those barriers. And I think it starts with exactly what I led with, mindset about what we're doing. I have had so many coach potentials say to me, "Oh, I don't think I could sell." And I'm like, "Oh, me either. If I had to sell something, I'd be in trouble too." And so I think there's a shift that has to take place within us first so that it can take place within our clients, that we're not selling anything. We're inviting, we're linking arms, we're joining together. The fuelings are just a quick vehicle to get there. And then our company pays us, right? So they're not buying fuelings, from us. So I think the shift has to happen where we shift to inviting and away from selling. We're not making our business about us. We're making it about our clients. I had this really cool moment this week. I'm reading the book Atomic Habits. Has anyone read that? By James Clear. Oh man, it's in my business. There's one page, you guys, those of you who are waving at me, there's one page that I've highlighted and that I've read like 12 times and I just can't get over it. So here's where your habits start. So like it's first we start on the outside. So you think about it here. So it starts with, I want to be different. I have these outward goals and I want to look different. I want to lose some weight or whatever. And then the second layer of your habit is the process to get there. So we eat right. But the third layer, and the one I want you to think about this way, it's closest to your heart, is your identity. So as we're working, a lot of clients start here and then they go to the process, but they never go to the identity. And I think the same is true of us. Are we selling or inviting? It starts here and then the process and then the outward part, the layer, it works. So, as coaches, that's what we're constantly trying to get to. So then, yes, thank you. So the name of the book is Atomic Habits. Man, it's in my business. So mindset is first. And then let's talk about the fear of rejection for a second. I believe, and I said this last night, that when we're saying, I feel like I don't want to bother, I am just going to bother them. I don't want them. Can you hear the repeated word there? Making it about me. And so the shift has to be, it's not rejection, it's just inviting. And I love, Frank, I love your analogy last night. I even use that today in a call. It's just, do you want ketchup? No. Okay. If you could just make it like, have I ever told you about how I got into coaching? I'm 5 years in. I could never maintain where I am without teaching other people, without loving on other people. And a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to do that full time. And I'm like, don't do it full time. Who in your world is noticing? So a couple of keys with that fear of rejection is getting them to your mentorship quickly. And I really think that Dee says a lot of the same things I say, but just comes from somebody different. And it's presenting it like it's totally normal and it just works. The other barrier is pre-qualifying clients or coach candidates. And I had a client that's a great client. I took her to Dee for a tips call and I was kind of like, I was probably embarrassed because when Dee was like, well, have you talked about coaching? She probably said no, because I was like, gosh, she has it all. She's got all these kids and does all these things and she lives in all this house and all of this. But y'all, she stepped into coaching and she loves it because her sphere of influence has been watching her. And it's really not about what she needs. It's what she can pour out so that she can maintain where she is in her own personal health journey. So I pre-qualified her. I counted her out. And it's moments like that where, oh, they're so busy, they're PTA everything, no, there's always space for health. And how do we become healthier? We surround ourselves by people who are healthy. So anyway, those are some of the major barriers. And I just want to encourage you, if fear is a thing, I've totally been there. And I think that talking to your mentorship and helping just lay that down, and just remember there are people on this call that Optavia has saved their life. I mean, gosh, don't we want to save people's lives? I mean, if we think about it, there's a shift that takes place so that we're not stuck in that fear, but it's such a gift. And so as you're moving through your barriers, make it less about you and more about the invitation. I hope that it was that part helpful. Did you guys, is that good? So we're going to move into the action steps. So I am a doer and I love, like, give me a list to do and I'm going to do it. So Lisa, I'm going to start with the action steps, and then Lisa's going to kind of finish and get us closed up for the evening. But my first tip for an action step is this, coach explore with your mentor coach. And do it sooner than later. When things are rolling that first week, man, 3 to 5 pounds, boom, that's when you got to get them in there. And if not shortly thereafter, because at some point in everyone's journey, things got hard, didn't they? And when they get hard, well, you want to be a coach? No, this is really hard right now, right? It's just a little more difficult at that point. So get in with your mentor coach quickly. Schedule the follow-up call in your coach and do a coach explore. And with that tips call with my clients, sometimes we kind of morph into that, and sometimes we don't, and sometimes we agree to come back and circle around. And one of the things that Dee says that I love so much is she says, hey, would you like to come back and let's do a coach explore? And that way you can say yes, or you can say no, but at least you know what you're saying no to at that point. And it kind of takes, oh, well, okay, we're just going to explore. And then we know that we can help them be more successful. So people around them are going to notice. Lisa had this idea and I thought it was awesome. Text your candidate immediately after your call. I love that you're excited about this. Something like that. And then just restate what they've said. Or I was thinking about my coach friend, Lisa, who has a similar story to you. Would you like me to introduce y'all? And then you could do a message, or you could even set up a Zoom. You could take it one step further. Lisa suggested doing a before and after transformation that's similar. I thought that was awesome too. And on that page, transformation stories to share, there are so many. If you use the search box at the top, you can find people in similar jobs that maybe want to leave their job. And then one more idea that I had was I do what's called Follow-Up Friday. And at least one Friday per month, I dedicate myself, for those of you in Habit Finders, a power session. I try to do about a 30-minute chunk of time. And my sole purpose is to go through health assessments, former clients, people that are on my heart, people that I've met in the world, and I just follow up. Hey, I'm just following up. How you doing? You're on my heart. How you doing? And I try to get them back into some conversation. And surprisingly, a lot of people do come around at that point and they're like, well, I don't know, I can't afford it. Bing, there you go. We've got a reason to talk about coaching, right? So as you're thinking about your coach candidates, we're not disqualifying anyone. We're pulling back all those clients. And one of the things that I found is your former clients are your best coach candidates, because there's a reason why maybe they didn't stick around. So if we ask some really great questions and get in there, we can probably figure out why they didn't stick around. Are they ready to take another swing at it? Are they ready for the accelerated accountability that we know that coaching brings for us? So I hope that those action tips were helpful. I saw a comment about a tracking system, and Lisa's going to share that with you in just a second. So I'm going to turn it right back over to her now, and she's going to finish up with some action.
Yeah, thank you, Lori. I was reminded while you were talking of a client who actually became a coach. And it was the husband of a friend of mine. And she kept saying, call my husband, call my husband. And I sort of put it off. I was intimidated by him. I never thought he'd be a client, much less a coach. And I will never forget when I finally called him and he said, oh, I thought you forgot about me. And I was taken aback, and I was reminded in that moment that follow-up, you guys, is not bugging people. It is reminding them that you care about them. It is reminding them that first of all, we care enough to share this gift with people. We care enough about their health. We care enough to do a health assessment. We care enough to do a Coach Explore. And if we just sort of let it lay out there, one of the things they start to get in their head, right? They start to think, oh, maybe I can't do this, or maybe I'm too busy or whatever. And well, gosh, Lisa doesn't really believe I can do it either because she hasn't followed up with me. So I think, that just proves to me that I can't coach. So don't ever underestimate the benefit of follow-up, because it is proof that you care. It's proof that you care about that person. And it is proof about what we've been talking about. This is a relationship business. I think we get caught up in the skill and the tasks and the follow-up and the lists and all the things. And yes, we have to learn the skill. Yes, we have to learn the art of our business. And it really is an art. There's an art to these conversations. There's an art to it. And like Dee was saying, and we heard at convention, do it bad until you get it good, right? Monet didn't paint the water lilies first time out of the chute. You're not going to sound like Dee Corchin first time out of the chute. Let's just admit it, right? So a couple more things in terms of follow-up. Staying in their world is really important, and staying in their world as a friend, staying in their world as someone who cares about them, but don't just stay in their world sort of like, hey, okay, now you've done a Coach Explore. This is great. So what do and then you sort of stop talking about it. You've got to stay in the world, and you have to continue to make the ask. And one of the things we can do also to sort of influence people, and this is a skill I learned early on, when you're creating a Facebook post, and a lot of us kind of struggle for inspiration, think about someone in your world that you really care about, that you want to coach, or that coaching would help them, or that the program would help them. Write that post to them. Now, you're not saying, dear Lisa, I've been thinking about you and praying for you. You're basically saying, hey, I've been thinking about you, and here's why. And then put that post out there, because I guarantee you there's more than one person in your world that needs to hear it. And then what you can do is screenshot that post. You don't want to tag them necessarily, right? Unless it's in Eat, Live, and Be Healthy or whatever. But you can screenshot the post and send it to them and say, you know what, I was thinking about you when I wrote this, and I have other people that I've talked to that are similar to you. And so I just thought this might be helpful for you to hear. Same thing with a Facebook Live. You can do a Facebook Live, but when you're speaking to one person, whether it's a Facebook Live or a Facebook post, it comes through more authentically. It comes through more from a place in your heart, and it will impact many people in your world. And you can leverage that to share with somebody and say, hey, I was thinking about you and a few other people I've talked to. It makes it so much more personal. And again, it reminds them that you care about them, and you cared enough about them to put something out on social media, right? So that has some impact. So as you think about inviting people to explore coaching, I just want to reiterate that tips call and that Coach Explore are really important. And so let's take a minute in the chat, you guys. If you're not setting up those tips calls, or if you are, let's start here. If you're not setting up those tips calls or Coach Explorers, tell us what's keeping you from doing that. Like, I know we talked about the fear of approaching people about coaching, but what we have is duplicatable. We have structure, we have systems, and we know that the tips call works. We know that the Coach Explore works. So if you're not doing that today, what's keeping you from doing that? And the flip side, if you are doing that today, can you describe some of the benefits? So let's just, in the chat, you guys talk about your experience with, or your clients' experiences with the tips calls, or with the with the Coach Explore. I mean, for me, while you guys are putting that out there, I will say that I learn something every single time. I learn something new. I get a shift in my mindset. I learn from my clients, and I learn from my coach who's doing the tips call or the Coach Explore. Pull up your mentor's calendar as you're speaking with the coach potential. Yeah. Difficulty overcoming inertia. Tips calls and Coach Explores are good for watching and learning. Yeah, exactly. What else? Love the tips calls, learn from my coach. Yeah. I wonder if some of it is part of the fear of inviting, I don't want to get my clients on one more call, or I don't want my coach to maybe bring in the hard sell or whatever. So here's what I would say. If you have some concerns about that, raise them with your own coach, right? And think about kind of where you are. Because we all have something to learn. I will tell you, I am way better at a tips call and a Coach Explore now than I was 3 years ago. I did it bad until I'm doing it good. So my apologies to my early coaches, who sat through this with me, but we're all in process. We are all growing and learning and getting better. So I encourage you to embrace that piece of the process. Now, as for inviting people tomorrow night, don't hint at it, be specific, right? Ask those awakening questions. We've talked a little bit about this, right? As you've made your list and asked those awakening questions. Megan Frank did a great job last night, kind of showing us what that conversation could look like and what you don't want it to look like. But make sure you invite them. And maybe, so let me back up. Follow up with them with excitement, right? Hey, tomorrow night we have this great webinar on the business of health coaching. Would love for you to come. I just think it would be helpful for you to hear more about coaching from somebody other than me. Just get a new perspective on it, get some more information, and then we can talk after it, right? So again, it's an invitation, and it is important to, again, let people know you care about them and invite them to it. And then afterwards, follow up with them again within 72 hours and say, what did you love about the webinar? Right? Which is more specific than saying, hey, so what'd you think? Right? So if you just shift your language a little bit into those more specific questions instead of what'd you think, then that kind of gets the conversation going. And then you hear maybe more about what their questions are, what their concerns are. Okay. So a couple of things before I turn it back over to Dee. I'm going to challenge you guys. I want you to text your mentor coach with 3 candidates that you are talking to, or that you have on your heart, or that you're considering, and that you would love to join you in coaching. Text them with, and you guys put some names in the chat the other night, so they could be the same names, but I want to bring it in within your organization. Text your mentor coach 3 names of people that you are talking to, and then follow up with them. And the people you're going to follow up with. And then that will give your mentor coach as well some more information about who you're talking to and how you can talk to. And if you're struggling with what to say to them, reach out to your mentor and say, here's why they're on my heart. What could I say? And Dan Bell says it's the music, not the words, right? But we all also want to find the right words. And sometimes it's hard to come up with. And sometimes just bouncing it off your mentor coach can help you come up with that. So to follow up, the follow-up form, I do have a form that I'm going to share with you guys, and we'll put it in the information in Coaches Opt for Change. And it actually was created by Amy Kemp and shared with a bunch of us coaches. And we're running out of time, so I'm not going to share my screen and show it to you, but it's in there. It's a Word doc. You guys can modify it. You can modify the headings, but it's really just a simple tracking sheet to list the names and the information. And so to kind of put all in one place who you're talking to about coaching. So, all right, Dee, back to you.
All right. Well, blow up the chat for me. Let Lori and Lisa know what a great job they did with that. And I can't emphasize enough the importance of follow-up. And we saw some of the coaches on this team, just that consistency of inviting and looking at it. And I've shared a story before about this. One time I had gone to an event, met somebody that had a makeup line. It was pretty expensive, but I really was interested. Walked away with it, with the brochure, put the brochure on my desk. Logic took over. It's too expensive. I really don't need that. But I can guarantee you, had she called me, I would have bought it. but she never called me. I mean, she took my info, but she never called me. And so what happens when we offer something, or if you watch a webinar and then they don't follow up, or you don't do the text after the tips call when they're interested, is they were in emotion, and then logic took over. And then when logic takes over, that's when fear can set in for them. So we want to keep it moving, and definitely watch our posture. And I love what Lisa said. And, we don't ask, what did you think? We ask, what did you like about that? Automatically putting it in a positive. Because if you don't, what do you think? Could be, yeah, I don't really have enough time. But what did you like makes the brain go to the positive. And so the other thing I would say, I learned this from Susan Palace back in the day when we didn't have online events, but we had in-person events, but it was always about the follow-up and the confirmation before the event. That if, what'll happen is you'll ask people to go tomorrow night, they'll say yes. And then guess what? They sit on the couch and they get sleepy and they get tired because it's Thursday night, or they get distracted with the kids and they could forget. So you sending them a text with the link, I would say about between 15 minutes before and right before, saying, I can't wait to see you on this call. Here's the link in case you misplaced it. You would be amazed at how many more people that will get there just by doing that last minute confirmation with the link. Because the other thing you don't want is them out trying to find it. So just two things. If you've got questions on any of this, reminder that we have time for you every Thursday from 12:30 to 4, the same Zoom link. We do time for you, which is just a 30-minute open Q&A session. Tends to be, most of us, our favorite session of the week. So great place to ask questions. The Business of Health Coaching is tomorrow night, 8 p.m. We'll have stories from Frank and Shauna, from Meredith Ray, busy mom who became a coach, and also from Alona Crosby, who has a medical sales background, a single mom who also does this. So great stories, and we will record it. So you'll have that available for future use as well. We are going to talk income. I'm going to have the appropriate disclaimers and all of that, but we will talk income possibilities as well. So, and it is an emphasis on coaching. So I think that's it. Thank you guys for your commitment. Yeah.
Real quick, a couple of questions in the chat.
Oh, sure.
One was, will we know who's attending? Will we be able to know who's attending? Will we get a list or anything?
I did not do a registration for this because it often, I'll see if I can add a registration for when they're signing in to it, but I did not sign it up with registration. That has complicated that sometimes in the past. So we may not have that. You may have to personally check with your peeps
in the follow-up.
Okay.
Yes, and another question, is it 30 minutes tomorrow? Or
30 minutes.
30 minutes tomorrow will be recorded. All right, thank you.
Yeah. All right, anything else? Any other last minute questions? All right, thanks, Bonnie. All right, good stuff, you guys. Thanks to everybody who contributed to this boot camp, and I'm just really excited about the lives that we're going to be able to impact. So we'll see you tomorrow night, 8 p.m. See ya.
Bye, everybody. Have a good night.